grew up around the same time I did, then most of your knowledge of the works of Tom Clancy probably stemmed from the video games which he helped produce. I am of course speaking of Rainbow Six, Splinter Cell, and Ghost Recon. While I did manage to read most of Clancy's novels in high school, my appreciation for these titles hasn't changed one bit. Now, admittedly, some of these games weren't too impressive, and we haven't seen a console release of Ghost Recon since 2007, but here we are with the newest title from Ubisoft and Red Storm Entertainment, Ghost Recon Future Soldier. So, how does this veteran shooter game hold up in today's hostile and competitive shooter market? Well, let's take a look and find out. This game begins with the current Ghost team tracking down illegal explosives attempting to make their way into the US. Naturally, the team manages to find the explosives, disarm them, and save the day. Nah, I'm just kidding. Actually, the explosives detonate once the team arrives, effectively killing every single member. What, you wanted a happy beginning? This is where you come in. As the new Ghost Squad, it becomes your duty to track down the origins of the explosives. By doing this, you manage to trace them to a terrorist organization named Raven's Rock. Over the course of tracking them down, you will fight through deserts, forests, and tundras, and you will even manage to help cause a Russian revolution. But, of course, considering the threat you're dealing with, you can expect some foul play, in the form of enemies with similar highly advanced gear as yourself, and of course, terrorist attacks. So, it's up to you to take arms against the Sea of Troubles once more and save the world from a threat that they probably don't know exists while being able to take absolutely no credit for it. Ah, the life of a Black Ops operative. The gameplay in this title functions fairly similarly to the Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter series, with a few added bonuses. You can, of course, run, shoot, take cover, and issue commands to squad mates. However, the gadgets are a very welcome addition this time around. While moving around, if you manage to crouch or go prone, then you will activate an active camouflage, which will make you blend into any environment. Now, when I first saw this aspect in the trailers, I was initially concerned that having Predator camouflage would make this game too easy. Well, the camo does help in certain situations, but keep in mind that the enemies aren't blind, and you aren't completely invisible. As such, if you get too close to an enemy, or just get in their line of sight for too long, you will be spotted, and they will engage. However, there are times in which you may not want to get too close to your enemies, and this is where your UAV comes in. This handy gadget is of course used to scout out enemies, but it gets better as you can mark enemies for your squad mates to take out discreetly, thus avoiding unnecessary conflicts. However, in times when you must engage enemies in gun battles, you aren't exactly at a disadvantage. You may throw sensors to reveal enemy positions, use guided ammo which locks onto your targets, or even use a robotic walker which deploys mortars and missiles to level enemy encampments. Like most Ghost Recon games, before each mission there is a briefing in which the game will recommend your loadout for the current mission, as well as gadgets. It is at this time that you may customize your weapons. There are overall literally millions of customizations to be made, and they vary from paint, triggers, stocks, scopes, barrels, and even ammo. Most of these attachments, along with the weapons, are unlocked throughout the campaign, or are rewarded for completing certain challenges in the missions. There are 12 missions to complete overall, and this campaign should take you around 15 hours to complete. Although, to be honest, I was stuck on one of the missions for 3 hours due to the nature of having to take things slow in this kind of games. Not to mention, I didn't have anyone playing co-op with me. Along with the campaign, there is the online multiplayer mode, and the new Guerrilla mode. In Guerrilla mode, it is your objective to secure a control point. Once you accomplish this, it is then your objective to secure this point from 50 waves of enemies. Sound familiar? Between waves, there will be drop-offs with weapons, ammo, and gadgets, and after a few waves, you will gain perks such as the use for radar. Now, this would be the part where I would tell you how the online multiplayer is, except I can't. Here is why. Ubisoft is among the companies that in order to play online past level 5, you must use a code that comes with the game brand new. If you do not have this code, then you must pay for a pass to play. Now, the copy of this game that I have is in fact new, but it is borrowed. So, considering it wouldn't be fair to my boss to use his code, yes, this copy belongs to my boss, and I refuse to pay $10 in addition to the $60 a year I pay for Xbox Live, I can't really review this aspect. And for this, I apologize. Now for the reviewing. The graphics in this game are pretty good. The character models in combat look fine, as does the active camo to my surprise. However, once you start looking closely at some of the environments and the cutscenes, you can see that this engine is a bit obsolete for 2012. As for the gameplay, I think this is one of the strongest aspects of this title. Aside from some clunkiness when peeping out from cover, the use of gadgets, weapons, and even running from cover to cover all work very well. Probably the aspect of the gameplay which I enjoy the most is that this game feels very similar to the older Ghost Recon games. In other words, you really need to treat your missions like, well, Recon. In fact, many of the missions have segments in which you must go a long amount of time without alerting guards. While it may seem a bit out of place in a shooter, due to the nature of this game, it actually makes sense and creates a deeper level of challenge that I find missing in many modern shooters. As for the AI, the enemies are nothing spectacular, but they do pose a threat if you get careless. Your squad AI, however, is fantastic. They will never manage to expose their or your location if you're sneaking, and while the only orders you can give are to eliminate targets, they manage to do that with little to no issue. The only real problem I have with this game, aside from the dated graphics, is the story. Let's put it this way. If you've played any other Tom Clancy game, much of this plot will be fairly predictable, and much to my disappointment, much of this game seems to be just leading up to a sequel. So, in conclusion, what are my final thoughts on this game? Well, it's very decent. There are some issues here and there, but on the other hand, the aspects that are enjoyable seem to even this game out. So if you're interested, I would recommend giving this game a rental, or of course if you're a huge fan of the Ghost Recon series, this game just may be worth buying. So until next time, this is E-Dog saying, Tango down. See you next time.